And we now welcome into the program a man who tweets in his sleep with 133,000 tweets to his credit. He comes by way of prohockeytalk.nbcsports.com. You can follow him on twitter.com/Joe Yerdon, PHT. It's been a while. We're happy to have him back. It's Joe Yerdon. Hey, Joe.
Matthew, how are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks, Joe. Good to have you on the show.
It's good to be back.
Now, am I wrong? But it feels like the voice is even a little deeper, Joe. Any change in life happen, or I'm not sure, but it's golden this evening.
It was a long weekend in Connecticut for a bachelor party. So,
there you go. That makes sense.
A few beers, a few whiskeys, a few shouts. Hanging around a casino. Yeah, things happen.
Love it. All right, Joe, let's talk some hockey here on the show. So many interesting stories around the NHL right now. Obviously, the big one in Pittsburgh with Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. They get a big win with UC Jokinen in the lineup. How impressed are you with Ray Shero and what he's been able to do in retooling his team, making up for things, and just continuing to keep this team near the top? And then the second part of that is, how do you like them going down the stretch here without Crosby?
I love what Shiro's done. How can you not? I mean, you look at the guys he's added; it's all veteran help, it's a team that could have stood to use some better depth on the forward units. And what's he do? He just goes out and gets Jerome Ginla, Brendan Morrow, UC Jokinen, just ho hum, all just a bunch of guys who have been successful all through their career. So. I think for Pittsburgh, it's a great setup for them. And, Jokinen is a guy who just kind of, he's a guy who Carolina had been looking to move all year long and just wasn't finding any takers because, let's face it, 2 more years this year and next year with $3 million on the cap, on his contract. It's a bit of a big bite, and there's a lot of cash there. But, hey, Carolina was looking, is taking some of the money off of Pittsburgh's hands. That makes it a lot easier.
Chatting with Joe Yerdon from prohockeytalk.nbcsports.com. Stefano Micella also helping us out here in studio. Go ahead, Stefano.
Yeah, Joe, one of the teams that has really fallen off the rails and were in first place in a division as early as a month ago is the New Jersey Devils, and now their 6th straight loss against Toronto, and they just have really fallen off the rails. They did lose Brodeur for a while, but can you see them bouncing back here in the last stretch of the season?
I like to call the Devils one of those, they're like a vampire team. They'll keep coming back until you jam that stake right through their heart. I'm not, people in the past, myself included, have written off the Devils so often, saying, all right, now's the time where it's over with. This is the end of the Devils. And I'm not ready to do that with them yet. There's too much veteran presence, and, Kovalchuk's going to be coming back soon. So I'm not ready to write them off, but geez, you roll off 6 losses in a row this late in the year. It's bad. It's a bad sign, and that fight at the bottom of the Eastern Conference for the playoffs is so tough and so tight. You can't really afford too many more mistakes. And the Devils are in that spot right now where, Philly's playing a little bit better. The Islanders are playing very steady. The Rangers are bouncing back. So it's not the right time for them to start cooling off. But they're coming up on a killer stretch of time here where they need wins. They just need to start winning games. And I know Pete DeBoer said that he feels his team can rattle off 8, 9, 10 wins in a row here, but they got to show me something. They got to show me that they're capable of doing it and start winning some games and getting their defense figured out, because I really think that's where their biggest problem is. I mean, when I got Steve Sullivan, that's fine to help steady the lines out while Kovalchuk's still missing games, but geez, that defense is poor, and losing Brodeur for as long as they did certainly didn't help things out. But the wins have to start happening, and they got to make them regulation wins. You can't be going to overtime and giving away points to other teams that you're battling with. But it's a tough spot for them. I don't like how they've played lately, but I'm not ready to count them out. I'm not ready to count them out until they're officially eliminated. That's how it goes with them.
Interesting you mentioned overtime with the Devils. They've actually racked up the most overtime / shootout losses in the Eastern Conference with 9. The next closest is Florida and Buffalo with 6. So that's an interesting stat. They got to start winning in regulation. Devils now, by the way, sitting 3 points back of the New York Islanders for that final playoff spot. They do have 1 game in hand, but they also have to vault over the Winnipeg Jets, a point up and 2 games in hand. They have, though, rather on the Winnipeg Jets. Elsewhere in that Eastern Conference, Joe, big game last night here in Montreal. Montreal winning over the Boston Bruins. And in my mind, I always thought the Canadiens were a pretty good team this year. A little bit of a surprise, obviously, but I thought, they're going to be not sure what to expect in the postseason. But last night's win, albeit without Patrice Bergeron for the Bruins, him, of course, being out, I thought that was just such an incredibly impressive victory, and now in my mind it puts them really in the conversation for contenders. Your thoughts on the Canadiens after the win last night over Boston?
They showed a lot last night. I think, and I think last night is one of those statement wins for Montreal where they were saying, listen, we've been good all season long, and now we're proving it. By beating Boston and taking care of business there. And just continuing to do what they've done all season long. I mean, it's not like Montreal's really had too many slumps here or there. They've been strong all season long. But, whenever those games with Boston come up, that's like the measuring stick game. And, you get to this point in the season and, okay, Boston's without Bergeron. All right, that's fine. But they just added Yager. You've got Tyler Seguin still there. You still got David Krejci and Lucic and Horton. All those guys there. They're all still there that, the Tuukka Rask is still there. Zdeno Chara is still, menacing everybody on defense. All that stuff is still there for Boston, and Montreal still wins. To me, it's a big win, and it proves that you can keep snoozing away and saying that Boston, Pittsburgh, that's how the conference finals are going to be. Yeah, well, Montreal's still just sitting there waiting to see how things shake out. And let's put it this way: if you're looking at possibly Boston being the 4 seed. Well, if all things break right, you could have Pittsburgh and Boston facing each other in the second round of the playoffs. That's how things shake out there. So to me, that's a brutal break for both of them because you look at that as a possible second round matchup. Geez, all right. Well, one of your Cup finalist contenders is going to get wiped out in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
bummer, but that works to Montreal's favor because then you're looking at. Montreal possibly facing Washington in the next round, or who knows?
Right.
Who knows how that shakes out? But I think the Habs are a very good team. And Carey Price has been outstanding. PK Subban is definitely a Norris candidate, if not possibly even an MVP candidate. I wouldn't, I don't throw that around lightly. I think you could certainly throw him in the mix, but. They roll 3 lines that score. They're just good, top to bottom. It's crazy. And you're looking at a team that could have a Calder candidate in Gallagher too. So Habs are good up and down. It's amazing what a regime change can do for you.
Joe, final question for you before we let you go. San Jose Sharks have rattled off 7 straight wins. I'm actually a big fan of this team on paper. I know a lot of people are saying, they're underachievers, but they did have one run to the Cup, the conference final a few years ago, and they had a great start to the year, faded a little bit, but you got to give them credit, kind of rallying around the whole Clo out of town sweepstakes. I'm not going to say Scott Gomez is leading them, but certainly there's something going on in San Jose, and I really think they're dangerous in the West come playoff time.
Yeah, you know what? I think the trade deadline sucks, and the speculation swirling around some of the guys and the guys that they ended up moving out of there, that were ultimately kind of unimportant to what that team is built around. Listen, that Sharks team is no different than they were at the beginning of the year. It's just minus a couple of role player type guys. And I'm right there with you. I think San Jose is a dangerous team. They were at the beginning. They were anyways to me. They just needed to get it all figured out and get it put together. And I think they got that going for them now. Niemi has been playing very well in goal. They're getting solid production up and down that lineup. So it's not one guy that you have to worry about. It's 2 or 3 lines worth of guys where, they have to get, you have to worry about getting everybody covered. I'm right there with you. I think San Jose is a team you don't want to deal with in the playoffs anywhere.
He is Joe Yerdon. You can find his work on prohockeytalk.nbcsports.com. You can follow him as well on twitter.com/Joe Yerdon, PHT. Hey, Joe, go back to bed or go back to recovery because I know how those weekends can be. Thanks so much.
Got to get rehydrated, my man. Thanks.
Take care.